Big changes might be coming to the NFL. And yes, they could directly impact the Miami Dolphins, whether you're ready for it or not. Some serious noise is shaking up the league, and it could open the door for Miami to make a bold move. Two NFL stars, Micah Parsons and Terry McLaurin, have officially requested trades after intense contract disputes with their current teams. Parsons, the dominant defensive force from Dallas, has been in a messy standoff with Cowboys management. The front office reportedly refuses to even negotiate with his agent, which is making a new deal nearly impossible. So on Friday, Parsons took to Twitter and posted a lengthy message making it crystal clear he wants out. And that's not all. Washington's top receiver Terry McLaurin is in the same boat. After reportedly asking for a deal in the $30 minus $32 million range, comparable to what DK Metcalf received, he's been met with lowball offers around $27 million. Frustrated, he's now pushing for a way out of DC. But before we dive deeper into how this affects the Dolphins, take a quick moment. If you love staying updated with the latest Miami Dolphins news, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button. Now, back to the action. Here's where Miami enters the picture. The Dolphins have been aggressive, forward-thinking, and always open to upgrading elite talent. With potential holes to fill and a front office not afraid to take risks, they could absolutely be a dark horse in these evolving trade conversations, especially if they view this as a Super Bowl window. This could get real fast. With Micah Parsons and Terry McLaurin both demanding trades, don't just look at it as league-wide drama. This is directly relevant to the Dolphins. And here's why. Two of Miami's biggest rivals, Buffalo and New England, are already being linked to both players. Imagine this. One of the most dangerous edge rushers in the NFL lands in Buffalo, or one of the best route runners in the league suits up for New England. That's the kind of move that can shift the power balance in the AFC East overnight. And that's exactly what Miami does not want to deal with heading into a pivotal season. Parsons has been a nightmare for opposing quarterbacks. He's fast, relentless, and changes the game on every snap. Buffalo's pass rush could be elevated to a scary level if they manage to pull off a deal, especially with Von Miller aging and Joey Bosa not being the same player he once was. Then there's Terry McLaurin. The Bills and Patriots are both hungry for a number one wideout. Buffalo lost Stefon Diggs. Keon Coleman is promising, but unproven. And the Patriots? Let's be honest, they haven't had a true WR1 since the days of Randy Moss. McLaurin stepping into other locker room would instantly change their offensive ceiling. For Miami, this is about more than star power. It's about matchups. The Dolphins are already preparing to go toe-to-toe with Allen, Rodgers if healthy, and a resurgent Patriots team. If a player like Parsons or McLaurin joins that fight from the opposite sideline, the stakes get even higher. Now here's the real twist. While Buffalo and New England might be in the front of the line, the Dolphins have always kept their options open for elite talent. If there's even a small opening, could Miami make a stealth move to block a rival and upgrade their own Super Bowl odds? When elite talent becomes available, certain teams move fast. And unfortunately for Miami, two of those teams are right in the AFC East. The Patriots, in particular, might be the biggest threat here. With a new regime now running the show, Mike Vrabel stepping in and Elliott Wolf calling the shots, the Patriots suddenly have fresh energy, a long-term plan, and over $60 million in cap space to play with. That makes them one of the very few teams that could realistically absorb Micah Parsons' contract demands or hand Terry McLaurin the payday he's looking for. And it's not just about money. It's about timing. New England believes it might have found its quarterback of the future in rookie Drake May. And if that's true, they're in the perfect window. Low QB salary, big spending potential, and the freedom to stack elite talent while their signal caller is still cheap. That kind of setup screams go all in, especially in today's AFC. Now, contrast that with the Buffalo Bills, who are still contenders but strapped by a tighter cap and fewer assets to spare. It's not impossible for Buffalo to make a move, but it's a tougher fit. especially if we're talking extensions and big money long term. So if we're looking at threats to the Dolphins, New England might be the bigger danger here. What does this mean for Miami? The Dolphins are clearly in win-now mode, and they know that every inch matters in the AFC East. If New England or Buffalo lands just one of these stars, Parsons off the edge or McLaren on the perimeter, it's a shift Miami has to prepare for immediately. From roster planning to game day matchups, everything changes. The coming days could define how the AFC East stacks up for the next few years. And whether the Dolphins sit back or stay proactive could make all the difference. Could a star land in the AFC East? And what that means for Miami. Here's the burning question. Will Micah Parsons or Terry McLaurin actually be traded into the AFC East? The situation is heating up, but let's look at it with some clarity, especially through a Dolphins lens. Let's start with Terry McLaurin. On the surface, it feels like Washington should get this extension done. McLaurin has been their rock, putting up numbers despite being thrown balls by a carousel of backup-level quarterbacks. From Alex Smith's late career comeback to stopgap passers with no long-term future, McLaurin stayed professional, stayed productive, and never stirred drama. Losing a player like that, especially when you're developing a young QB like Jaden Daniels, feels like a huge step backward. But if a deal falls through, the team best positioned to strike could very well be the New England Patriots. They've got cap space, they've got picks, and they've got a clear need at wide receiver. It's not hard to imagine a deal involving a second rounder and a rotational WR, giving New England exactly what they've been missing: a reliable, game-changing pass catcher for their rookie QB to grow with. Now from a Dolphins perspective, here's why this matters. Miami's defense, particularly the secondary, is in transition. Jalen Ramsey's elite, but there's still concern over depth, youth, and injuries. If someone like McLaurin ends up on the opposite sideline twice a year, that's a matchup problem. Add to that a resurgent Patriots team with a real coaching structure and a vision, that's a recipe for serious tension in the AFC East. So while McLaurin might stay in Washington, if he doesn't, it's not far-fetched to see him wearing navy blue and silver next. And for a Dolphins team trying to control the division, not just survive in it, every move around them becomes a critical one. Let's not sugarcoat it. If Micah Parsons ends up in the AFC East, it's a nightmare scenario for the Dolphins. Not only would Miami have to face him twice every season, but he's already on the schedule this year. Whether it's Week 9 or Week 10, Miami is set to square off against Washington. And if Parsons is still with the Commanders by then, he'll be a massive problem to scheme against. But if he ends up wearing blue, red, or silver, that's a twice-a-year headache, not a one-time concern. And let's be real, nobody wants that. Micah's recent trade request was more than just a casual tweet. It was a full-blown, emotionally charged statement that read more like a breakup letter than a business move. The tension between him and the Cowboys front office feels toxic. The Cowboys claim they have no plans to move him, but these kinds of standoffs don't usually end quietly. Yes, he's still in training camp to avoid fines, but based on the tone of his message, this doesn't feel like something that can be patched up with a handshake and a new contract. Now, when it comes to possible destinations, there's one bit of relief. Micah Parsons might be harder to trade than Terry McLaurin due to his elite value and massive contract implications. But if either the Bills or Patriots get desperate enough, the move can't be ruled out. And if it happens, Miami would be facing a top 5 defender in the league, twice every year. This is a player who's been in the top 3 of Defensive Player of the Year voting in all 3 of his NFL seasons. His impact is immediate, game-changing, and hard to counter, even for high-powered offenses like the Dolphins. There's no debate. Micah Parsons is a once-in-a-generation defensive talent. He's not just a sack machine. He's a walking mismatch who overwhelms offensive lines, collapses pockets, and tilts entire game plans. Whether he's coming off the edge, dropping into coverage, or hunting quarterbacks with raw aggression, Parsons changes the tempo of a game like almost no one else in football. And yes, the Patriots continue to feel like the most probable landing spot if a blockbuster deal goes down. The reason is simple. They've got the money and the motivation. With over $60 million in available cap space and a boatload of draft picks, New England could make an aggressive push without even flinching. Buffalo, by contrast, has very little cap flexibility and might not be able to afford a high-impact move like this. But let's bring the focus back to where it matters. Miami. If there's even a chance the Dolphins enter the conversation, it has to be for Micah Parsons. Not because McLaren isn't great. He is, but because Parsons is still just 26, ascending, and already one of the top 5 defensive players in the league. This isn't a player you're acquiring for short-term help. This is a core-building, game-wrecking star you bring in to define your defense for the next half-decade. For a team with Super Bowl aspirations, that's a rare opportunity. Miami's front office has never been afraid to swing big. And if Parsons becomes available, truly available, it might be one of those times where standing still is the riskiest move of all. Now let's talk strategy. Terry McLaurin, as talented as he is, doesn't seem like a realistic target for Miami. Why? He's approaching 30 years old, and history has shown us that the Dolphins don't usually invest heavy future capital in aging stars, especially when they come with massive price tags. That kind of move has already been made with names like Tyreek Hill, Jalen Ramsey, and Bradley Chubb. All elite players, no question. But the team may be rethinking how often they go all in on veterans. Now, Micah Parsons? That's a different conversation entirely. He's 26 years old, just entering his prime, and still on an upward trajectory. He's not a short-term boost. He's a franchise cornerstone. Some may argue, do the Dolphins even need another edge rusher? And that's a fair point. With Chop Robinson, Jalen Phillips, and Bradley Chubb, Miami arguably already has one of the strongest edge groups in the league. But this isn't about stacking bodies. It's about securing a dominant future. Imagine the pairing of Chop Robinson and Micah Parsons, two of the freakiest, most explosive pass rushers in the league. Both versatile, both disruptive, both game wreckers. Whether or not they overlapped at Penn State doesn't even matter. On paper, this is the kind of combo that could terrorize quarterbacks for the next 5 to 6 seasons. And with Phillips or Chubb still in the rotation, you're not just deep, you're dangerous at every level. It's bold, it's forward-thinking, and it's the kind of move that could define the Dolphins' identity on defense for years to come.